If we go
Yeah, at least I'll
live,
know you're breathing.
if we don't do that, we're gonna be in trouble.
I'm in trouble. I don't know.
So we want you to stay closer to the mic, just a
Yeah,
little bit, yeah,
closer, like this.
as close as you can, and still be comfortable. Yeah, we're all good.
I stay here, this way.
Perfect.
Okay. Behave now.
You rolling? Live. We are live. All right, this is gonna be fun. So I'll say a quick introduction to the show for the people, and then we'll start having a chat because we got important things to talk about. Hey, welcome to Wine Talks with Paul K, and we are in the studio today in beautiful Southern California. I think it's going up to 85 degrees. We have a great story about Sardinian wines today with Antonella Mancini and Claudio. I got it wrong already. Salvador.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Wine Talks available on Pandora, Hot Radio, wherever you hang out for your podcasting. And sponsored by the Original Wine of the Month Club, now supporting the Napa Valley Sweet Series of wines. Listen for Jamie Whetstone coming up. He's being released today. It's an amazing story about the emerging market of, well, quote unquote, healthy wines. Check out that at winetalkspodcast.com. But we're not here for that. We're here to have a conversation with Antonella Mancini, and we have the added bonus of Claudio Salvador, both of Canteen Pedre. Is that right? Pedre.
Cantina Pedres.
Pedres. Cantina Pedres. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you,
Now,
Paul.
there's one rule here. There's no arguing. No, you can't.
We never argue.
You don't argue. Okay, that's great because
Because we drink wine all the time. We
'Cause I
don't
know-
argue. We are happy all the time.
I know. I work with my wife. Okay, so I know better than this already. So it's great to have you on the show. I'm looking forward to having a conversation about Sardinian wines because I think they're misunderstood and not like I say misrepresented, but not represented well, particularly in California and the United States. So. This is fascinating stuff. I want to, for the listeners, paint a picture of what Sardinia is. Where is it, and how big is it, and what are we doing there? What's Cantina Pedres do?
Sardinia is beautiful rustic island in the middle, located in the middle Mediterranean Sea between Italy and Spain, straight across Rome. And
Right across from Rome.
yeah, straight across
okay,
Rome.
so it's up-
Yeah, right
all
there.
right.
It's big island, no? From north to south is, I think, 100, 200 miles, no? From east to west, 70 miles.
pretty good
okay?
size.
It's pretty good size, yeah. Cantina Pedres is a family winery. It's my family winery, our family winery, and is located in Olbia town in northeast part of Sardinia. And this area is called Gallura region. It's very natural island. No many factories, no many population live there, no many people live there. Just enough million people. No, you think?
Wait, how many million?
One and a
One
half.
and a half
1.5 million?
million people. You think
That's pretty good
Sicily-
size.
It's pretty good size, but the same size as Sicily, live there 8 million people. But during the summertime, it's very fun island, the summertime, because there are beautiful coast and beautiful white beach. And I don't know.
Is it bigger or smaller than Sicily?
It's
Almost the same size.
no, it's a slightly smaller than Sicily.
Little
but,
smaller
you know,
Sicily.
but you're looking at 1.5 million to 8 million. So it's considerably less populated.
Less populated.
Less populated.
And so
yeah.
I'm looking at this map here because I when I do these podcasts, I want to learn about these places that we don't see a lot of here, and particularly in California when you're competing with Napa Valley wines and other parts of California, they don't get the exposure. So you're in Olbia,
In Olbia. See,
and that
it's
is
a
the
small
north. Looks like the
town.
north east part of
Northeast. Yes.
Sardinia.
Where there is the Costa Smeralda. It's very VIP coast. Many tourists come there during the summertime. It's very funny island. They come with a big, there are different tourists, no? The rich one, the normal people also. They come there. The rich one are from America,
Of course they are.
Russia, from wherever, Arabian people with a big yacht, the jet, private jet, and wherever.
And so I'm assuming that an Olbia has wonderful guest quarters for podcast hosts to come and visit, right? That's right.
Right, right.
Yes, yes.
I usually wait for that question at the end of the show, but I thought I'd
Yes.
just ask up front since we're talking about
Yes.
such beautiful coastline. And I see off the map that it is directly off the center of Italy, off the coast of Italy, about halfway up where Rome and Tuscany is. So,
Right.
But this is a family winery. This is many generations now. When did it start?
Yeah, we start with my great-grandfather, Agostino.
Your great-grandfather?
Yeah, his name was Agostino Isoni. In the beginning, 1920, he had 50 acres of vineyards that they produce wine there. And then my grandfather, then my father, the brothers of my father, and then us, me and my brother. With my father, we started Cantina Pedres in 2000, a new winery in 2002.
So you were farmers.
We are farmers,
So,
we
but
have
you didn't-
vineyards.
The winery prior to 2002 was just farms, or did you actually make wines?
No, it was
Yeah.
it was farm, and they were selling their grapes to a cooperative winery,
I see.
and that's what it is. And that's when my father-in-law decided in the early 2000 to build his own winery.
So was wine different back you said 5 generations? Was the wine industry different in Sardinia? Was it really a localized bulk wine kind of market, or were we making fine wines then? Because the wines I tasted today were excellent. They were balanced. They had great character. They seemed to lift the terroir from Sardinia. So was wine industry back in those days just growing grapes and selling them off and making wine for the locals?
Well, I think it changed, like in any other industry, in any other part of the world. Okay, the industry evolved, and the knowledge of the winemaking and the viticulturists became. So they were able to adapt the particular variety to the particular soil. To make it a more elegant and more intriguing, and more approachable wine. Sardinia, like all of Italy, has what we call indigenous variety, very well. And some of these indigenous variety were not treated properly. And so they were making wine very heavy or very unrefined. But now the winemakers are start bringing it back, and they are case in point. You have Vermentino over here, which is more elegant than they used to be. So yes, the industry evolved, and the winemaking technique evolved, and there was probably 1 or 2 winery at the beginning of the century in Sardinia. Now I have no idea how many they are.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
So,
Different.
Because I found, for instance, the sparkling Vermentino extraordinarily delicate, and
Thank you.
in a Charmat process, which usually doesn't give you that delicate character, but very filling in the mouth and just wonderful character. And I thought that was fascinating. And I think it's an important part of the wine world to bring these. I'm going to call them exotic. It's almost exotic. It's coming from an island. It's in the Mediterranean. It's blue ocean. We don't have that in California. And I think in the price point was amazing.
Thank you.
For what I would call exotic wines. And terroir driven, meaning I taste that Mediterranean, which is one of the fascinating parts of anything from Sicily or Sardinia,
Right.
Corsica even, where you've got these wines that have this savory character that seem to lend themselves to food, that seem to stimulate a conversation other than just 14% alcohol.
well, Vermentino is a very versatile grapes. Like you said, it does well with sparkling. And it does well, even with barrel fermented and barrel aged, believe it or not. So it's a very and the particular part of Sardinia, which is the Gallura region, where there is a lot of granite soil, there is a lot of minerality there. The wine natural progression is that there is after 2 years in the bottle, the wine becomes very full of hydrocarbons. You know, those the famous diesel fuel that
Right.
that they are
Sure, the Riesling style.
The Riesling style, and I think it's because they have a lot of natural terpenes in there that they can give that flavors to it. But you can make it in different ways. As a matter of fact, I don't know, you probably heard this. They call it the Vermentino the new Pinot Grigio of Italy.
I can see that. One of my best fascinations, I guess, of white wine in the world is Italian whites. I think they're the most expressive. They're so unique. They're not Chardonnay. They're not Sauvignon Blanc. They're something completely different that makes you feel something. And they do have that minerality. They do love the minerality of the Italian soil.
Yeah.
But Sardinian wine in the world it's headwind. It's hard to sell, I'm assuming. All right, I shouldn't assume that, but how do you sell Sardinian wines to the world? How do you come there the first time? That's a rather young industry and say, look, we have Sardinian wines. You need to try these. It's just, well, okay, I'm going to answer the question for you. It says here,
Yeah,
according to your website.
The first one is they are very healthy. We are the healthiest red wine in the world. You know that?
Wait a minute. Are you saying Grenache
Yes,
and
the
Cananao?
Grenache,
I
the
don't know.
Cananao. No?
The Uruguayans are going to argue with you on that with
you know that
Tanat.
Sardinia is the won the blue zone on the world.
They did, really?
Yeah, it is.
So the Blue Zone Award for...
Yeah, for the people, they study why the people live longer there. And they live longer
And they
because
drink
of
Cananao.
they drink a Cananao, especially the Cananao because it's full of polyphenol. Polyphenol are very good and strong antioxidant.
Yes.
More, and the Cananao has the polyphenol in much amount more the other red wines in the world.
I wish I
Probably
had
it's
the-
not just that, because in Sardinia we have just very, I told you, it's very rustic island. Not many people live there. The people live a good life. They eat a good food. They drink good wines.
Is there a difference between the north part of Sardinia and the foods and the wines as the
Yeah.
100 miles is the south? Much
Yeah.
like Italy.
There is, no, in all the island we produce Cannonau and Vermentino, but in the south and center and south part of the island we produce Vermentino di Sardegna, no, but it's different because in the north part we produce Vermentino di Gallura, and just in Gallura it's DOCG, it's controlled guaranteed
Really?
origin
Okay.
denomination. Yes, because in all Italy, no, the Vermentino is DOCG just in Gallura region because their result of the Vermentino I think is there because the soil help the wine because the minerality come from the granite soil just in Gallura region.
And so if you go south and I taste the same Vermentino, is it
They're
flatter?
different.
Is it just indifferent?
Yeah,
Different.
It's got a nice nose in the beginning, but after that, there's now the progression of aging process that the minerality and the soil gives to the Vermentino di Gallura. I compare that, the Vermentino is wine that you can age, 2 or 3, 4, 5 years sometimes.
The acid structure seemed to be that,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
fruit component seemed to be that way.
Yeah.
So is there an argument between the north and the south about who's got the best Vermentino? I mean, do you take,
No, it just
how about the food? What am I
because,
gonna eat with this Vermentino? That's Sardinian, indigenous Sardinian food. What do I eat?
we have a lot of fish, of course, in all Sardinia. We are an island. Then we have a very good fresh fish. We have spigole, orate. We have little lobster. Very good. We produce very nice mussels and clams and oysters.
Wow.
And
I'm
but
getting
also
hungry.
we have the meat. For example, the Cannonau we pair with the roasted little pork called porcetto sardo. It's
Wow.
very tasty, and with the Cannonau it's paired very well. And we have ravioli. My mama make a lot of ravioli, zuppa gallurese, many things.
How important do you think that is to the world of wine and marketing wines from Sardinia, that we have indigenous foods? Because it seems to me regionally in Italy, in France, Europe mostly, there is a protection of food and wine, that we have this affinity together. Is that
Yeah.
important to market these wines?
Yeah.
For people to understand them?
Of course.
Is most of the wine stay in Sardinia, or do you export most of it?
We sell the wine in Sardinia because many tourists arrive in Sardinia, enjoy the island, enjoy the food, enjoy the wine, and they know the Vermentino because there they come from from all the world. But we sell also the product outside Sardinia,
Side of Italy.
in North Italy and north part of Italy. In Europe, we sell also in Japan and now
Really?
in
Wow.
United States. Yeah, I have a customer. He found my wine in Los Angeles. They have a big company, the fish company, the salmon company. They
Yeah.
produce, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they call me because they like my wine, and they have in Giza, is a big downtown Tokyo. They have a big shop, and they pair the Vermentino with the salmon.
Wow.
Yeah, for them, it's sushi salmon, of course.
In America, particularly, how long have you been here? How long have the wine's been here?
10 years, more than 3 years.
Oh, you've been here longer than that.
Yeah,
Like what,
since
15?
2015.
Okay, so that's still young for wines being in America. And it's
Right.
I think it's such an important. What we see on the market all the time is sugared, sweet. I'm not going to mention names, even though I usually throw them under the bus today. But I just tasted a wine from a very famous chef in America. It's a Chardonnay, and it tasted like cotton candy. It tasted like sugar water. And here we have this wonderful expression of Sardinia and a grape that we don't see every day. And how do we get people to understand that? And I read on your website that you some of the things you're doing, and I'll read them: wine tasting events, organize incentive visits for distributors and their clients.
Right.
That's got to be fun. Presentations at shows, events, trade fairs organized by importers. Education and winemaking techniques for distributors and other colleagues in the wine trade. Hospitality services and guided tours of the Gallura area.
Right.
And then I added here, being on a podcast with one of the great podcast hosts of the world. That's on there too. You have to add that to the. That was a
Okay.
joke. Okay, you're supposed to laugh at that.
Yeah, we will add it. We will add it.
But the reason I brought that up is that it looks like that's not what you always did. You weren't always in the wine business. It talks about you being the Horeca channel, hotel restaurants, and specialized retail sectors. Is that what you were doing before? Before you came to your father's winery, what were you doing?
I was studying.
Nothing?
Yeah, nothing. It was free. No, we had we had vineyards. And my father was an architect before, and
An architect?
Yeah, an architect before, and they have still the vineyards. Me and my brother, we were at the college, at the university, and then we start, helping my father in the vineyards, and then the winery.
But so you went to university? You didn't go to university? Did you study something besides winemaking before you came to help him? Because there are a lot of families where the children don't do that and then decide one day, oh, I think the wine business is really fun. Is that what happened?
Well, she studied. Well, you study statistics, University of Rome.
Economy and statistics.
Wow.
Yeah, and marketing. Yeah, I studied in Rome. No,
But were you
and,
thinking you were going to be in the wine business, or you just wanted to do that because you thought it was interesting?
No, I love the wine business. I love very much that. I love the wines. I love to talk with the people. I like go there, talk. The wine are connection with
Yes,
people,
it is.
and this is the best part from my point of view. I like to go around in the world, show my wines, present the wines, talk with the people, understand if they like or no, understand what kind of style the wine they like it. Yeah, the Sardinian wines are one style, but we can make the wine a little bit more international, for be closer to all the world, many people. Okay, this is important.
I mean, you just defined the part of wine that sort of it's hard to define because it is not refreshing, but it is rewarding to have those conversations with people about the way wine makes you feel. Good wine.
Yes.
And that when you can educate somebody on the value of a Gallura Vermentino that have never tasted before, and their heads tilting, going, "Wow, what is this?" That's a very passionate thing.
Yeah, it's not easy to explain where is Sardinia and Gallura because everybody know Italy, but everybody know Tuscany and know
Yeah.
Sicily or know Venice and wherever. No,
Piemonte
but where,
and
yeah, Piemonte
Puglia.
and Puglia, but they don't know Sardinia. But Sardinia is very nice area, and when the people come there, they love it. They love everything. And I think the wine a good expression of the Sardinian people. No, very approachable wine, very nice, very clear, very clean, very natural, no, and very, yeah, true.
I think you want, and I heard this from a young woman, and it's I use it all the time. And she said, and she's a winemaker from Armenia, and she said, what other product in the world can you put in the bottle, put in anything, go halfway around the world, plop it on the table, and say, not only is this where we are, it's when we were, because of the vintage. And I think that's a great expression of what the value of indigenous, properly made, properly expressive wine is. So I'm going to dovetail that into something that's kind of bizarre, and that is Ohio wine. Because Claudio was making wine in Ohio, and I think it's an important subject because I want my listeners to understand a couple of things about Hawaii. Tell me about how this happened. How did you end up in Ohio making wine?
Well, I graduated from college in Italy in the late 70s. I worked in Tuscany for a while, and after that I went to work for a large winery, Italian winery called Zoning. I worked for
Oh,
the
wow.
Zoning
Yeah, that's huge.
Corporation. And the Zoning Corporation sent me to Barboursville in Virginia. I was the first winemaker in Barboursville. After a few years there, I wanted to move on, and I wanted to, increase my experience in the winery in the United States. Thinking that I'm going to do the East Coast first, and after that I'll do the West Coast. At that time, the only other region that was important to it was Australia. It was coming alive. We're talking about the early 80s. So that was my plan. I moved to Ohio in 1984. I never left. I got there in June. It was a beautiful,
Yeah,
right
June.
at the bottom of Lake Erie. I'm originally near Venice. So, the weather was nice, and all of a sudden, winter sets in. And I said to myself,
Hello.
What the heck are you doing here, Claudio? So, but events. And so I worked there primarily with vinifera. We had the largest acres of vinifera
Really?
in the States. At that time, we had about 75 acres of vinifera. And the vineyard was located on an island called North Bass Island, about 7 miles from Pili Island, which is in Canada.
They're way up there.
The lake actually helped mitigate that quite a bit. The lake, Lake Erie, being one of the shallows of the shallows of the Great Lakes, help prolong the growing season, but also delay the bud breaking in the spring. So we had no frost, absolutely no frost.
Really?
So it was an interesting. Of course, the white wine was much more easy to produce than the red, and we planted varieties there that in the beginning when I got there, the vineyard was already planted, and it was planted with a clone that was not suitable for that particular region. When I started digging in, we had Pinot Noir from Venti Martini clone, Venti Martini 13,
Really?
which is it's a clone that basically is known to make sparkling wine. Sometimes
Right.
So we replaced all that. We put Alsace 1 Gewürztraminer, 269 Riesling clone. We did UC Davis number 4 clone for the Chardonnay. So we did all that exchanging, and we started producing some decent wine. And in 1992, 93, I was the first guy to plant Pinot Grigio in Ohio. And Pinot Grigio flourished because the industry in California wasn't even there yet. you
Is
know.
is it like Friuli, Venezia, that kind of
It's
thing?
like Friuli, Venezia, you know. It's a very fruit-forward type beer wine. Does not have a lot of minerality because the soil is very clay.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's a wine that probably lasts about a year or two, you know, but it was a very good success for us.
So I wanted the listeners to understand a couple things. When you said vinifera, that is the highest level of the Latin classification of grapes that are what we commonly use to make wine. Because I think most of the Midwest and even the South, we're talking about Lambrusco, Vitis Lambrusco grapes like Concord, Muscaline, things like that. And so I think it's important to understand, and we talked about it off camera a little bit, that the South and the Midwest were very prolific wine regions before Prohibition. And when Prohibition ended, the government sought after to go back into those areas and replant and try to jumpstart the industry. But by then, California had started to take hold. And, you know, a lot of the great wineries in California now were resurrected post-Prohibition and became very famous, like Chateau Montelena, places like that. So how did this happen, though? You know, a guy in Ohio making, you know, Pinot Grigio that's flat, and no, I'm kidding, and then and a Sardinian, indigenous Sardinian. How did this happen?
Well,
What's happened?
in 2003, I was able to buy the company, the Firelands Winery. And I also fulfilled my dream in 2004 to start importing wine from Italy. I have a lot of friends in the industry over there, graduating from college. I even have my brother, for example, he makes wonderful Amarone over there. So, and I start looking for a family-owned winery, and I was going to bring in wine that of the mainstream, you know. Yes, I do have I had a Pinot Grigio in my portfolio. Yes, I had a Chianti in my portfolio, but I was looking for something unique. You know, in my neck of the wood, you know, the distributor that I had, if they wanted something unique like a Tintilia or Cesanese or you know, something like that, they could have come to me. You know, Pecorino. They came to me to look for that, and the natural progression was Sardinia. I was looking for a winery in Sardinia, went to Vinitalis and all that, and we start doing business first, and after that...
well, you know, I mean, was she behind the table at Vinitaly and the Sardinian booth? And
I was really tough the first time. You know, I was showing that, you know, I know the wines and all that stuff.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know?
I'm the importer.
So, you know, I just, well, you got to improve this, you got to do that. I think the first year I turned him down, but the second year I went and bought some wine. And we started, and we introduced Vermentino in Ohio, and actually Vermentino in Ohio took off tremendously well.
That's amazing.
Yes, and you know, like you said, Chardonnay is sweet, but this is really, you know, and it's easy to pronounce. Vermentino is easy to pronounce, you know.
So is he your biggest distributor?
It used to be.
Yeah.
He used to be.
So tell me about
Used
it.
to be.
You said Japan and other parts of the world. What other parts of the world are embracing Sardinian wines now, where it seems to be a popular thing or going to be a popular thing?
Yeah, Europe for sure, Germany and yeah.
But you went in Brazil too.
Yeah, I went to Brazil too. I said,
Really?
yeah, in São Paulo, in Brazil.
Because they have a wine trade in Brazil. It's not a big one, but they have wines there.
They have wines there, yeah, but they buy some wine also from Sardinia. Yes, I saw.
Uruguay?
No,
White.
No,
Uruguay.
Uruguay, the country.
Uruguay. I'm
No,
sorry, no. No, Uruguay, no.
Argentina,
No, I don't even
South
know
America in general, but just Brazil.
No, just Brazil, and then United States, and Europe, and then Asia, in Taiwan, in Vietnam, and Japan, and where we stopped because after the COVID, we start the COVID.
Yeah,
started.
no. So it's interesting because the Chinese market has started to mature. You know, the Japanese are ahead of the Chinese as far as their palates and their food, and so they're no longer just seeking first growth Bordeaux's and the highest end Napa. They're just copying them and faking them and built. That's all we follow.
I know.
But I mean, I would think that wines like this might take hold there because they're looking now finally for palate pleasing wines. Have you tried China?
Well,
Yeah, I tried it.
Yeah,
It didn't work out.
Yeah.
I went there. I had a wine trade show in the north part of Beijing. They have an area, an exposition area. We have a wine trade show, and the wine was totally different than Italian wines.
Yeah, they probably
Sure.
they probably weren't used to it. Didn't
No.
understand it.
No, it's no European standard.
Yeah.
For sure, it's
Right.
no American standard also, no California standard.
Yeah.
They are not there. They are not there.
In California, what are you seeing? Is it restaurant trade, retailers? Who's gravitating towards Sardinian wines? Are you putting them on menus?
Yeah, we put it everywhere.
I know you're going to Angelini, right?
Angelini,
2 Angelinis today,
yes. two
which is a great
Angelini.
restaurant, and they have a wonderful curated wine list.
Yes.
Are you finding that's what it takes, a somm of some sort that has some experience to say, yeah, I want to put these on the menu? Because both the sparkling wines can fit anywhere. I mean, somebody says, give me a glass of sparkling wine. This is way more elegant than Prosecco is,
And it's
you.
an alternative to Prosecco. If I
It's
may
an
say.
alternative to Prosecco.
and the price was great.
Yeah.
So-
This is a new Vermentino di Gallura Spumante from Sardinia. Not many people knows, but we start. I think Cantina Pedres was the first producer the sparkling Vermentino di Gallura.
Really? Wow.
Yes, because in Sardinia we produce still Vermentino in general, but I think 7-8 years ago we started to produce the Vermentino sparkling, and nobody was agree. No, it's not possible to make it.
It's not
Really?
possible to make it, except
Really?
that we're going to make it.
Yeah, let's see. We started with a small amount, and now we sell. The people love it. The people like it. It's
I have a
very
customer
interesting.
right now that can use this, Jennifer, because she's having a wedding, and I don't have anything here that sparkles that's not champagne.
Right?
So, and this was fascinating, and the creaminess and the softness was amazing. So I want to bring some in just for that. My father, who's 93, down in San Diego, the founder of this company, now likes to give sparkling wine to the people that come and help him. You know, the vendors that, he's 93, doesn't get around that quick. So he always hands out a bottle of wine now to the vendors and the plumber and the dishwasher fix guy.
Okay.
And they think he's the World's Fair for doing it. And I want to give them some of this to do as well. So, what do you got? What are the plans then now? Since COVID's over and we're gonna start to ramp up again and get back on the street. You're here in America doing some tours. What is there anything on the horizon for Cantina Pedres that's interesting? Wine, new varietals? Are we planting, testing grapes? Are we looking for things to do that might be different?
Yes, always.
So,
Uh-huh.
so
Introducing a new
like
wine.
indigenous grapes, which I have this huge thing in my head
Yes.
about indigenous food and indigenous grapes, and
Yeah,
which
it's-
one came first?
Yeah, in Sardinia. In Italy, we have many indigenous grapes. In Sardinia, also. Cantina Pedres starts with the typical indigenous grape, Vermentino, Cannonau, Sparkling, Still, Rosé, and whatever. Moscato also, because we
Moscato.
produce also the Moscato.
The sweet Moscato?
Sweet Moscato, yes.
Please bring that to America so we can get rid of Stella Rosa.
Stella Rosa.
I shouldn't say that. My friends are at the San
I
Antonio
sell
winery.
also the Moscato here. Yeah. And we have indigenous grapes we start with a new line called Antonella Collection line. My husband make it for me, just for me.
Oh, so you're not retired.
No, not really.
He came out of retirement.
You can explain better than me. It's an interesting line with the new wines, with the Vermentino aged in French barrique, and the new Cagnolari. Probably nobody knows the Cagnolari, but it's very typical indigenous wine. Make the wine very rich, complex, full body, very interesting red wine.
Is it here yet? Is it here yet?
No, not yet, because we start this 2020 harvest, and we start to sell the wine right now, the last month.
I'd love to have some. Nothing thrills me more, particularly my friends that are like Cabernet Napa cabs, which I understand. That's what's in our backyard. That's what we understand. That's where you can go for a 1 hour flight. You can be in Napa in a whole different world. But then when I open these kinds of wines, even Burgundies that are rarer Burgundies, it raises an eyebrow. They kind of go, wonder what is this about?
Yes.
There's more to the wine world than that. Can I ask you, Claudio, then, making wine in Virginia, which is not easy to do, when you're talking about the snow in Ohio, I'll never forget going to Millbrook, New York, in February and having these guys in their dry suits pruning in 3 feet of snow, and I'm thinking to myself, what a labor of love for wine that's really probably not going to be that great. But bringing that experience from Virginia then to Ohio, and then coming back to Sardinia, is there experience that applies, like almost part of the terroir is your experience doing things here and then coming back to Sardinia?
They said, you make the wine in the vineyards, right? That's what do you say? Sometimes it was true for Virginia, because Virginia is I remember there when I started there in 1980, there was 2 wineries from the West Coast. There was Gallo and Paul Masson. They were there tasting fields. They had vineyards tasting.
We disavow any knowledge of that.
But they were there, tasting. But Virginia was in the beginning at that time. Okay, now Virginia, they produce some pretty nice glasses of wine in Virginia also. Going to Ohio, there is a trick. There, the winemakers gotta really work very hard. Okay, because sometimes the weather is they are not too forgiving. You got to be very careful what you're doing and all that stuff. Pruning, you apply a lot of different technique. You prune very late, so you try to avoid if there's any frost, for example. You do where here, you let the canopy cover your grapes, because otherwise they're gonna burn. The sun is gonna burn some of those grapes. Over there you try to expose them. A lot of summer pruning, a lot of cluster thinning. So there is a lot of different things. In going back to Sardinia, we go back to the wine made in the vineyards. The wines there, the vines suffer sometimes, but they are good suffering, because they're producing a better quality of grapes, because there's a lot of summer that there is very hot and dry. So I think it's an easy task for a winemaker when you got good grapes.
Plus you've been making wine in Ohio, where you're fighting the elements.
Oh my gosh!
Then you come back to.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, it is a very treacherous. Sometimes you get these. You get these wines in, and when we had them on that island before, we were relying on migrant people to pick. Sometimes you didn't get the grapes for 6, 7, 8 hours before before the grapes came in. After that, we got wiser. We bought a machine picking, harvester, and so we were able to get it in 2 hours.
Yeah, and it changes the grape.
It changed everything. You know that, and so. But I love it, with working with the technical staff at Cantina Pedres. We have 2 young winemakers over there on staff, school trained, and they are really learning a lot. But when we are doing these different wines right now, I'm having fun right now, because she has to worry about running the winery.
Yeah,
I just have to, right now, for example, we are doing a Müller Thurgau. We planted a little plot of Müller Thurgau, because I wanted to have a full malolactic white. And the Vermentino, I don't think, can handle the full malolactic white.
No, that seems a stretch.
Yeah. But Müller Thurgau, since we cannot grow, like, for example, a Chardonnay over there, like you mentioned Chardonnay before, I think that Müller Thurgau will do the trick. So we bought some French and American brand new barrels. Right now we have to do a full malolactic and all that stuff. So so it's a fun,
That's fun for winemakers.
We are now produce, and it's fun also for these young kids that they are working for us, to try something else, because how the industries are over there. From Piedmont they produce that, from Veneto they produce this, Puglia they produce that. So we are trying to insert some new different varieties in there.
I think that's really smart and very important. The wine industry, at least in America, particularly the direct-to-consumer wine business, which is what I've been doing for 35 years, it's unknown right now. It's the marketing of it, the industry's confusing, how to market, how to get to people. But one thing that seems to be obvious is the millennial group, which is the ones that we're all trying to attract. My wife did a study recently on how long my customers stick around on a membership basis, and she found people that signed up with my father in the 70s that were still getting wine. Now, they're obviously aging, and so they're not going to be with us all the time. And so, and as you get closer to now, it's a different mentality for consumers when they buy wine. Totally different, right? That even if it was pre-COVID, it's totally different. And so, but the millennials seem to be embracing interesting things
Yeah.
other than Snoop Dogg's Cali Red and 19 Criminals. I went to a couple of wine shops in New York visiting my daughter. I didn't recognize anything, nothing. I mean, there's like 200 SKUs in there, and I don't recognize 2 labels, okay? And told me that generation is looking for interesting wines to tell their friends, hey, I have this Sardinian Vermentino here from Galura, something different.
Something
So
different.
that also leads into this organic discussion and biodynamic discussion. And you just talking about hand harvesting versus machine. Is there a movement in Sardinia for organic wines? Is there a movement for biodynamic farming? And if so, what are we doing with it?
It is, and then we are talking about. So we have about 120 acres of vineyards under our own control. Okay, that's our vineyards, and we are talking about. We are constantly planning new varieties and new, and we are really. I mean, my brother-in-law is the vineyard manager right now. So we are really talking about going into bio and taking part of the vineyards, not all the vineyards.
Just test it.
And test it that way, okay? And the logical grapes to do that would be the Vermentino. So that's what it is. There's a lot of different styles. We were talking with Jennifer about the orange wines and all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can be done. Jennifer brought it up. I heard about this type of wines, and there's a couple of wineries in Sardinia that are doing it and all that. I have to try it. I have to make sure that it works because you can ruin a good batch of wine. It doesn't take much.
That's an interesting point. But orange wines, notwithstanding, and I think in the world of wine, the sustainable movement is an important movement. I think it makes sense. I think of all the industries of the world that you could do something, maybe sustainable farming, sustainable managing of your winery is an important thing because we have so much impact on the soil. Biodynamic farming is a whole different thing. There's the book, Rudolf Steiner's agriculture book. That's an extra step. But I think the organic side of it wasn't winemaking organic in the first place?
Of course.
I mean, that's what we did, right?
Course.
So I don't see that's a big stretch either, and probably not that hard to get to as a winery eventually. I'm not so sure certification is that important. I mean, you guys have kids?
No.
If you did, they'd crawl in the vineyard, and you wouldn't want them having pesticides all over their hands.
Well,
Somebody
I had kids from a previous marriage, okay, and my son was involved in the vineyard in a winery in Ohio, okay, so and he was bringing a lot of ideas to the tables, but all of a sudden, he was never a wine drinker. He said, Dad, I'm a bourbon drinker.
Yeah,
that's what he
well,
kept saying,
yeah,
what
Ohio.
I'm saying. So. And so he moved on, and that's one of the reasons why I'm concentrating more on the vineyards there.
Well, I just thought, a lot of comments I hear for European winemakers, more than California, and California's embracing it now, is that, let's just take, his name was Valentino Valentini, who was the mayor of Montefalco for a while, and he grows Sagrantino.
Sagrantino.
And his comment was, my kids are crawling around in that vineyard, so why do I want to load it up with pesticides and have it on their hands when they come in from the vineyard? And I think it's a sound principle. I don't know if it's necessary. And again, I said I don't think certification that's a marketing tool. Either you're going to be organic or try to be organic or biodynamic. That's just the process for the winemaker and the proprietors and the wineries to decide, right? If you want to certify and go through all that headache, that's fine. It's expensive, and then the government's in your face every 3 years, right?
Right.
Well, You're talking about Sagrantino. I used to represent a wonderful producer there, De Filippo, and he was organic, 100% organic. But
Biodynamic.
biodynamic.
Oh,
I'm
biodynamic
sorry,
too.
biodynamic. But for me to certify that here in the United States, it's so different. At that time, it was so difficult. So we were bringing in the wine, but we were telling the story. But it was actually a true story. Horses, duck in the vineyards, manure.
Yeah,
all
right,
that
all
stuff.
that.
You know what
It's
I'm
expensive.
saying? So there is nothing like a natural mature manure in a vineyard. And there's nothing like sulfur and the copper sulfate, copper, in a vineyard. So there's nothing like that. I grew up with that too. My grandfather had vineyards, small vineyards, about 7 acres of vineyards. So, and so it's natural, like you said, that it's natural progression,
Right.
to do that. We are like irrigation for us. It's a necessary evil sometimes, because you need to survive.
Yeah,
The
I
plant
was-
needs to survive. Okay, but we like to put the plant under stress
Yes.
if we can.
If you can.
So,
There's nothing unnatural about water, and I
No.
don't think there's anything unnatural about copper sulfate. As long as it's
Yeah.
naturally, there's
Yeah.
nothing unnatural about inoculated yeasts. If
No.
they're from grapes, I mean,
Yeah.
that part I don't understand in the definition of organic versus biodynamic and whether or not it's natural. And we know in America there's no definition for natural anyway. But what's unnatural about those things? And I don't think the consumers understand either that you're not going to throw away a whole crop
Yeah, no,
because it's going to get moldy if you don't.
you
Put a little-
can't.
no,
You can't, right?
You can.
you
I
can.
mean, you're out of business and probably
You can.
Okay.
one crop.
That's why the knowledge of the winemaker is very important.
Yes.
You need to know how to treat these grapes when they come in, because there's not such a thing as a perfect season.
No, yeah.
Ever.
So, how many harvests have you under your belt for this brand before the family was farming? But how many harvests?
19. Next one is 20.
But how many have you done altogether?
20.
20.
No,
Oh,
no,
20.
She's
She's saying
been
20.
she's been
Let's-
involved with the vineyard
20,
since the beginning.
Since the beginning, yeah,
So 20 harvests.
20. Yeah, this
And
year.
so, how
Next-
many harvests do
next
you think it'll take to understand what you have?
time. I don't know. Who knows? We know.
40, 50, 100?
Yeah. In Sardinia we live longer. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true.
Maybe with a, I don't know.
I mean,
it's very
I-
interesting
I don't know.
question, but no.
I'm sorry, I don't know how volatile the climate is in Sardinia. It probably is. It's an island. It's the north tip of the island. That every year you've got a new harvest and you're dealing with new things to.
But the weather in Sardinia is very, very nice in general. No, very cold in the winter time. We don't have too much rain, probably like here in California, and but the weather helps a lot because we don't do any to the vineyards because they grow very well.
They just do whatever.
They grow almost alone. No, because we cut, we clean, the vineyards, but we prune, of course. This is the good point there, the first thing, and but they grow almost alone.
So
We
no
have a very
extreme
perfect-
weather to deal with.
Oh, the heat, I think.
The heat.
The heat, and unfortunately, we also have a lot of fire during the summertime.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
because it's so dry.
Yeah.
And you always have the idiot that light the fires, on the side of the road, and all the cigarettes and all that stuff.
Even in Sardinia, huh?
Oh,
They say.
yeah.
Even in
You always
Sardinia.
had
You
that.
think it's
always
immune
had
from
that,
that.
Yeah.
And 1 year, I think a couple of years ago, they had some salt problem. Do you remember? La salinità.
Yeah, because Sardinia is a windy island, no? Windy
It's a
island.
windy highland.
Yes.
There's a lot of wind.
So the
A lot of
salt
wind.
from the Mediterranean.
From the
No, there are
Mediterranean.
some vineyards, not ours, but some producers, some vineyards very near to the sea. And happens, a couple of years ago, then the wind was very, very strong, and they bring a little bit the salsedine, the water, with
The
salt or
saltiness of the water into the vineyards.
Yes.
into the
And they did some
vineyards.
damage to the vineyards there too.
Did
through
damage
wind.
to the vineyard.
The stringency, the
Yeah.
salinity.
Yeah, the salinity,
right.
and it kind of burned a lot of the leaves
Wow.
and burned a lot of the fruit.
If I dug a hole in the vineyard, would I find, shells and fragments of fish, fossils and things like that? Was it underwater at one time?
No, there was not. I mean, it's you can find a lot of rocks. That's for
You
sure.
find-
We can find a lot of rocks. We constantly pick up rocks. Every time we do some kind of a disking in the vineyards or something like that, we have to
big
go
rocks.
back in and take
Yeah.
rocks, or breaks the disc, or the tractor is
Really?
suffering flat tires. I mean, it's a lot of rocks.
Wow.
And when they planted the vineyards, my father-in-law put a ripper down so deep, and they still picking up rocks.
Wow.
So,
Yes.
So I haven't heard from actually from Italian winemakers a whole lot about climate change. I mean, you hear a lot from the Burgundians and the Bordelais. California, kind of right now, they sort of are doing some different things because of the climate change. But have you, being an island and
That's
stable climate, have you
No,
had to
it's-
react to that at all?
It's pretty stable.
It's
right?
pretty stable. It's pretty stable.
They always had, what we had more, we had this anticyclone that comes in from Africa. So, there's this big wave of heat that comes in a little
Wow.
bit more often right now.
Yeah.
Probably that's the one I noticed the most. But overall, it's pretty much the same.
But you haven't had to make trellising or canopy decisions yet.
Nope.
Oh, that's pretty lucky.
No.
Because the stories you hear, like we were in Bordeaux in 2018, and
Oh, wow.
it was May. We went to the race in Monaco, but
Oh, lucky
behind
you.
us, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not bad, right? I mean, you go to Bordeaux, then you go to Monaco.
Monaco, let's go.
It's good work if you can get it.
Yeah, right.
But right behind us, literally a day or two behind us, this swath of hail came through
Hmm.
the center of Bordeaux, and it was like one row of vines was stripped,
Mm-hmm.
and then for 100 yards, and then the next row of vines was perfect. It just wiped it out, and they're saying that's part of the climate change. They're even allowing now grapes like Touriga Nacional
Mm-hmm.
in regular Bordeaux, or they're testing it, and so that's why I was wondering if there's those issues with Sardinia.
No, I mean, it's a natural growing season. I mean, that you
Happens
always
all
have the chance of a hailstorm.
Something, right.
But it never happened.
No, we have some, good weather. Yeah, in general.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming visit you. So
Yeah, why not? We are always welcome.
we're on almost an hour, which if you can believe that. So it's been very entertaining and very fast, actually, to have this conversation with you folks. And I hope the rest of your trip. When are you headed back?
Well, we're gonna go back to Ohio.
Oh, you're going to Ohio.
Go back to
So
Ohio.
you're living in Ohio. That's
Well, we'll have 3 months over here and 3 months in Italy. It'll be basically 6 months. 3 and 3, 3 and 3. That's
oh,
what
you just
we
go
do.
back and forth.
Back and
We'll go
forth
back
the
and
time.
forth, yeah, so.
Next week we are in Chicago.
So you guys get around.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Right. Hey, I gotta stay active. So this
It's a life. It's a good life.
She's making me work.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. We want to travel again. We're going to go to Bordeaux, I think, in September. But I need to get to Italy, and I need to see Mr. Valentini.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a movie star name? Valentino Valentini?
Yeah,
I mean, come on, right?
It is. It's true.
And then maybe we'll just hop on a plane and head down to Sardinia while we're around, as long as you're there.
No?
Well, you please let us know. We'll
It'll be a lot of
show-
fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd
we
love
can
to
show
stick
you-
my
we
hand
can
in
show,
I want to pick up those rocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
if
we'll put you to
want.
work.
I know,
There are
right?
little
Put you to work.
rocks and big rocks, granite rocks, no?
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you
You
for
should be
coming in.
surprised
Pleasure.
about that.
Thank
I
you.
will.
No, thank you so
for
much
having
for
us.
having us.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Cheers.
Thank you.